So, Ali G, we've never had you on the podcast before. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand a few things about your work. I understand you made a shift from process engineer to controls engineer and launched your own firm, Process and Controls Engineering LLC, a few years back. What was that like, and what does that mean to go from process engineer to a controls engineer?
It was really challenging, but to describe what it's like to go from process engineer to controls engineer, the way I described it was, I was a process engineer, so I was able to um like size equipment. So if you need like new pumps, piping, heat exchangers, like that traditional process engineering stuff. And but you know who was in my way of like world domination was controls engineers, because I couldn't put anything on a screen and like stroke a valve, turn my own pumps on. I'd have to ask them for that. So I'd
Mm,
have to find some controls person who could figure out HMIs or who knew how PLCs worked, to help me do what I wanted. And I was even writing like the narratives, so I would tell them what the PLC should do, but I couldn't do the PLC stuff. And so yeah, so I guess at one point I have a good cute story where I was a process engineer and I was doing basically like a startup, and I was with a maintenance electrician who was, in the control panel, and he opened up the control panel and I was just like, wow. And I started asking like dumb questions. Which was my dumb question was, what are those green ones? Because in a control panel, the green terminal blocks are grounding terminal blocks. That's how you can tell that. But he didn't answer that. He just rolled his eyes and shut the door. So I
mhm.
learned how to do it myself, how to design that entire control panel by myself. And so yeah, now I can do the whole thing. And so that's kind of what that's like, is to become too powerful. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're like, let me
um
just do this myself.
but yeah, it was like the next step in understanding like something turnkey. So if I wanted to put something, and I always wanted to go from the beginning, not just the design phase, but to construction and startup, and even training operators how to use the machinery that we put up and put
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And so that's what that's been like.
My little brother is a quality engineer, and it took
Oh.
me like years to figure out, to remember, first of all, which one he was. This is confession time. And also, then I just now started to understand what it means. When an engineer decides to go to college or train or however you receive your education, how do you pick which one to specialize in? And I guess I'm asking this because you specialized in process engineering, right? Were you not
Chemical.
introduced? Chemical, okay. So did you not know about controls engineering, or did you just not know that it was something that you would enjoy so much, or was it
That's a
into a
beautiful
me?
question. That's a beautiful question. So,
I try.
controls engineering has only recently become a major. And so that's what's been so weird, is like for the longest time, and even mechatronics is a newer major where they do include PLC programming inside of that.
Hmm.
But controls engineering is also a major now, which is a lot like mechatronics, but just not as heavy on like all the mechanical stuff. Controls still, it needs to be, understand mechanical systems, otherwise you're dead in the water, because all of these systems out in factories are mechanical in some way.
Hmm.
um Now some of these are like, I studied chemical engineering because literally, okay, so if you're 18 years old, this is a tough one. If you know you like math and science, right,
Hmm.
and you want to apply this stuff, you don't want to just, I mean, not to dig on scientists, but like, they spend a lot of time in a laboratory.
Right.
Okay. And their work is invaluable to science, but that's different from engineering, because engineers are like scientists that like practice their
Right.
science all day long. And so we're not really doing as much theory. Yeah, we take some risks and we do some theory stuff, but like there's a lot of stuff that we just know how to build. And so we're still designing it, so you're still using design principles, but we're not doing as much experimenting as we are experiment straight so that we can build. So if we do any experiments, it's because we want to build it right away. But I liked chemistry and I excelled in chemistry, so I thought that I would be a chemical engineer. I didn't know what that meant. Um, Even after I graduated chemical engineering, I didn't know what they really did out in the life, or out in the field. But I ended up loving what they did, but just finding that like the controls part, which by the way, I thought that I was never going to be smart enough to do electrical engineering. And turns out like I don't have to be that smart to do controls engineering. um, but I actually learned all that stuff on the job. So don't be afraid to pick the wrong engineering because you can just move over to the other ones.
Yeah.
And it's done all the time. And so yeah, if you know you want to do like automation in factories and robotics, like go for that major if you already know.
Hmm.
But if you want to be open, what if you want to do robotics? You could just study mechanical engineering and have this gigantic, like you basically can work anywhere, even if they don't have a robot. So if
Hmm.
you want to be like, you know, I guess secure in what your options are, then just take a more general engineering like some people took aerospace engineering. That's really specific. But
Right.
you could do aerospace as a minor to mechanical engineering. So you're like backed up a little bit just in case you can't find that like aerospace job. And some people saying, "Oh, that's like settling." I mean, maybe. But I think that like, being safe and not, pressured into, because it'll be weird when you're like, well, you got an aerospace degree. Are you sure you want to work in my cheese factory? And they're like, yeah, sure. I totally want to. They don't believe you, right? Like,
Hmm.
but if you're just a mechanical engineer, you're like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I'll do that. Minored in
Yeah.
aerospace, but I know I can work on conveyors and mixers and whatever in your cheese plant, dryers. Yeah, just think about that if you're trying to figure out which engineering to take, so that you don't necessarily go take a super, super specialized one just in case, because you can still end up in that job without that specialized and then learn the rest of it. I'm just saying that as like a bachelor's degree. If you're just going to get a bachelor's and then go to work, then you could just have your options bigger if you did that. But me, it was chemistry, and other people say similar things. They're like, I really love cars or whatever, and they're like, okay, then do mechanical engineering, or I really love circuit boards, so they all go and do electrical engineering. But you're always, by the way, those three are all married together in the world anyway. There's no way to like design any one system without looking at all three of those, mechanical, electrical, and what was the other one? Well, chemical. So you could kick out chemical in some cases, but electromechanical systems are. It's weird. It's weird if you don't know anything about the other. Those engineers know each other's stuff a little bit. Um, Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, not at all. I'm totally engaged. I think it's really interesting. I understand that in addition to your own firm, you also run a nonprofit. Tell our listeners about the nonprofit you launched in April 2023.
So I can't tell the story of this nonprofit without telling the story of a man named Jordan Day and his now 10-year-old daughter, Elena Day. And it really started with them. I I got the nickname PLC Fairy Godmother because I was just sending people PLCs, and then I was like,
That's
I
cool.
found this little girl. So I found Jordan Day on LinkedIn, and I don't know, maybe he, I still don't remember exactly how. We need to go back and look at this, Nikki. But I don't know how I found Jordan or Elena. But I found out that he had a YouTube channel for Elena, and Elena had been basically doing shadowing her dad since she was 4 years old. And Jordan Day is a master HVAC and master plumber, so he can do like, and he also dabbles in controllers building automation because he works for the school system, and so the HVAC systems like are tied to the building automation systems, and so he works on that. And so he, when I sent them a PLC, I knew he had an idea of what was going on with that equipment, even though he's not an industrial like programmer by any means. So I sent them a two PLCs because I wanted her to play with a Siemens and a Allen Bradley because those are the two like main brands in the US, and I wanted her to pick like which one she liked more. Um, and then they made like a cute video, but what the quicker was is I had this idea that I wanted to show people that it's not as hard as they think. that like they could with knowing nothing, that they could grab a controller and like do something with it, right? Like, and it's a starter pack. So I was like, I always had this idea where I was going to have a lady, like a woman that has no idea, nothing about this stuff, and like have her figure stuff out like with a kit. And and it ended up like not working out with a couple different ladies that I like sent kits to. And then I finally send this, I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter, like whatever. And I send the kit, this same, like, it's an Allen Bradley starter kit. It had an HMI and a PLC inside of it. And I send this, and it's an Allen Bradley product, and I sent it to Jordan and Elena, and they made this incredible video with it. And she, in this video, she is wiring, assembling the actual like back panel, like cutting Panduit, cutting wire away, wiring, programming, assembling, and then she makes a video, and she's basically shooting like a little paper rocket in her room, because this guy of course has compressed air, and so I gave them a solenoid, so he was able to basically like put his board in her room and have, you know, and she programmed all, and this video is amazing. I'll show you the video. But
Yeah, I would love to see.
after this video, I was just like, breath, you know, my breath was taken away, and I was like, I have to replicate that. It can't just be this one girl who like did this one thing, because I mean, yeah, she's amazing, and like a lot of kids are not gonna be able to do what she did, but kids need to be able to try. And so
Yeah.
I was like, how do we give these kids to the most, how do we get the most reach if I were to make kits like this? And the most reach would be public schools, because the teachers could reuse the kits. So
Mhm.
a new class will come in and learn the same stuff, and then a new class will come in. And so you're pumping out, you know, high school students that have seen industrial grade hardware before. And when they, and if slash when they end up inside of a factory and they open a cabinet, they know what they're looking at. And that's not something that's going on anywhere right now. There are programs to get kids into STEM, into automation, into robotics. But and it's really good for getting them the fundamentals, but like no one's using industrial grade stuff and giving it to kids. And so I believe that like doing that will make a gigantic difference in empowering them when they get to the workforce.
Mhm.
And so, and I know that like places like Germany, kids will start working in a factory when they're like 14 years old. And so by the time they graduate from trade school, they have like 10 years of experience or something ridiculous. And why aren't we doing that? We're just kind of saying, and then we're just telling everyone they all got to go to college, which is fine. But we don't tell them which colleges or what programs like make them the most money. So we're just like, just any college. You're like, that's not really the wisest thing we should do for our future.
Yeah.
um,
So
and so, yeah,
I'll
I want to make techs. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll interrupt just to plug it's called Kids PLC Kits, the nonprofit. And Allie puts together these kits with different industrial grade PLCs and sends them to kids. And the motto is, if the kid's free, the kit's free. So if it's a public school where the kids are not paying for attendance, the kit is free to them and their instructors. As long as an instructor wants to teach this to kids, they can apply and get a kit, as well as technical support and curriculum to go along with that kit. And if it's a paid school, then, you know, they can purchase the kits for kids. But kidsplckits.org, is that right,
That's
Allie?
right. Thank
And
you.
we often refer to it shorthand as KPK, but yeah, kidsplckits.org. You can go to that website if you want to donate your time or your equipment. We've had
Or your
wonderful
money.
donations or your money, yes, for us
Yeah.
to support
Keyword
the
money. No,
administration and everything else.
PLCs are heavy to ship.
Yeah, we need to ask for money more often.
well, I mean, I think that, there are opportunities for companies, organizations to get involved with things that they just are not on their radar. So,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, funding is wonderful, but, we have to let people know what we're doing, and there may be people even listening to this podcast because a lot of our listeners work in management at assembly plants who want to back your cause, and or want to be affiliated somehow. So thank you for throwing that information out, Nikki. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to support this kind of endeavor?
The other
I
thing
think.
I'll plug is Elena Day's YouTube channel is called Lil Miss Fix It. It's LILMISSFIXIT. So Lil, like the, yeah, I don't know.
Like Lil
Lil
Wayne.
IL. That's the way.
Lil.
Lil Miss Fix It. Go check her out on YouTube. I mean, whether you're a kid or an adult, I mean, it's just, her videos are so much fun to see.